perfect. As long as you can see me and everybody can see you, then we are good to go. So first off, I just want to welcome everybody on here today. I want to say thank you to Dr. Ethan Skog with Vibrant Health, who is our special guest today. I'm so excited to have you on here. I always say that God has a weird way of opening up the right doors. So real quickly, I'm going to introduce Dr. Skog and kind of explain how I found him and why I'm so excited to share his knowledge and more about his practice with everybody. So first off, this is Dr. Ethan Skog. He is a holistic chiropractor and owner of Vibrant Health Center, and it's located in the Minneapolis, Minnesota area. And he practices with the intention of helping others experience optimal health through alignment of their body, heart, and mind with their divine purpose. He earned his Bachelor of Science in Kinesiology with an emphasis on human performance at the University of Wisconsin, followed by his Doctorate of Chiropractic at Life University. He has continued postgraduate training and certification in multiple advanced holistic healing approaches, including professional applied kinesiology, neuro-emotional technique, clinical nutrition, and intention-based field resonance testing. So those are all things that we'll all get to learn a little more about. And outside of the office, he has his beautiful wife, Katie, and he has two boys, Logan and Jaden, and one more little one along the way. And they're not finding out what they're having. I did ask him that. So we'll be excited to see what God has in store for you guys with either a third little boy or a new little girl. So I'll be excited for you guys.
Thank you.
So real briefly, so how I found Dr. Skog, for those of you on this page, a lot of you know my journey with Lyme disease, and I've done various different treatments all the way from Germany to other practices. I had my son with cancer at the age of 7. So for those of you who know our story, there's a lot of different things that we've dealt with health-wise, emotional-wise, trauma-wise, and all of these things go into disease and how that body manifests disease. And so my son, Isaac, also, most of you know his story, had Lyme disease as well, and happened to have a few flare-ups going on in our household. I think after a year of stress and getting ready for college and just all the things that hit the body. And so I looked online. I was looking under applied kinesiology, and I wanted to find somebody in the area that would be able to help him. And God, literally, I typed it in the applied kinesiology website that I found from a fellow chiropractor, and Dr. Skog came up. I read everything about him, and I just thought, this is exactly where I need to take Isaac. And so that's how my journey began. And 2 weeks later, he extended his day a little bit for me, which I'm so appreciative. On a Saturday, we flew in. And so that's kind of where our journey began. So we're so excited to have you on. I appreciate you taking time on your one day off to help share your story and how you got involved in doing what you do. So,
awesome. Thanks for having me.
Well, absolutely. Well, first off, I would love to know, I think everyone's story is really important. Your story with your health, how did you get into holistic chiropractic and applied kinesiology? How did that all start out?
Yes, it definitely began with my own personal health journey. I would say in high school is when I started developing some pretty severe health challenges. Now, in hindsight, a lot of those challenges began much earlier in childhood than I realized. But in high school, I started developing a number of symptoms that really interfered with my ability to live life. I was an athlete. One of my favorite sports was wrestling. I loved school. And at that point in my life, I really developed some challenges with fatigue, weakness in my strength, low stamina, inability to compete at the same level I did before. School became mentally hard. I had a lot of brain fog develop. And around this time, we were looking for answers. I remember my parents taking us to the medical doctor. We were running, every test on the planet. I remember things were scary because my parents were running tests for leukemia and cancer and things like that. And that's scary, right? I know you know that firsthand. Yes. And long story short, I remember medically speaking, the doctors eventually told my parents, well, we think it's all in your son's head. And that was when my parents thankfully didn't take no as an answer, and they decided to look into more natural route. And so we went to our just regular family chiropractor, and he was a great guy. And they said, hey, he's got these challenges. Is there anything you could help him with, or anything you recommend? And he had just learned a little bit of basic muscle testing, and we'll probably get into that today a little bit. But he learned some basic muscle testing, how to test the body for answers, use it like a biofeedback tool. And he found that there was something going on with my immune system, but he said, I'm really not very experienced. I think you should go somewhere else that maybe is. And so he referred me to another practice. And that referral was the start of my journey, because although that next doctor didn't necessarily have all the answers for me, it opened up a world of muscle testing, of looking into your health from a holistic lens that I had never been exposed to before. And that was the journey. And that journey wasn't quick. It took a number of years for me to find long-term, you could say, deeper answers. But that journey was what inspired me to become a doctor, what inspired me to essentially practice the way I do right now.
I love that. And I think that, you're such a great example of when you do have a story that you can relate to people when they come into your practice. And I think a lot of times people with different health problems, Lyme's a great example, other autoimmune, that sometimes you feel like you're crazy and that no one believes you, and that there's no way you could have this symptom today, that symptom tomorrow, or you look healthy, or your blood work maybe looks great, but you don't feel good. And so I think that's so powerful that your story led you into your passion for what you do, which makes you even that more of an amazing doctor in what you do. So I love, and I would love for you to explain. So in our company, we're always talking about activating the body to heal itself. And I love that on your page, you say how the body is intelligent and it can heal itself. And we're always saying that if you remove certain obstacles and give it what it needs, it really is capable of healing. So would you kind of explain, like, what is mind-body correction and what makes it unique in helping the body to heal?
Absolutely. I would say we always tell people when they first come in here, and when they continually visit, we say our body is designed, or you could say God designed our bodies to be able to heal it themselves when the correct roadblocks to healing are removed. And those roadblocks to healing are really on all levels of health. So we have something called like a triad of health. Think about an equilateral triangle, and there's different aspects of health represented on each side of the triangle. And so on one side of the triangle, you may have structural aspects of health, or you'd say interferences with health. On the other side, you might have chemical or biochemical. That could be toxicities or immune challenges or deficiencies. On the third side of the triangle, there could be mental or emotional challenges. And all of those components of health are equally important when it comes to healing. And so really, mind-body correction is all about helping our bodies to remove the interference to allow healing to take place. Healing doesn't come from us, it comes from God, but we can oftentimes find ourselves getting in the way of that process.
No, I love that. And no, I think you're totally right that there's so many other things that we try to put into our bodies and do that are actually probably hurting us, not helping us. And you're right, like God's the ultimate healer, but it's like he made the body so perfect. It's just taking away those hindrances and giving it what it needs. So
Right.
I totally agree with you. And I love that about you. Quick on beyond. So Lyme is a big one. I'm sure you see a lot of Lyme, but what conditions generally, I'm sure you are like a lot of different doctors that I've worked with or interviewed, that you're not the first person they go see, that
Right.
they've been to multiple doctors or multiple healthcare or through different medications, different treatments, and they still haven't gotten better. So what do you usually see people for? And is that pretty typical that you're not the first person that they've seen in their health journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I always tell people we see people across the board. I mean, we at all ages. First of all, we see a lot of families who come in who have struggled to get pregnant or even maintain a pregnancy, all the way through to, I have a lot of patients who are pregnant throughout care. We see newborns, infants, toddlers, young children, all the way up into older adulthood. So we do see all ranges of ages, and the condition that people come in with symptom-wise are across the board. They could come in with musculoskeletal problems like headaches, neck pain, or back pain, but we also have people who come in with autoimmune diseases and depression and anxiety and chronic Lyme and things like that. And like you said, I think the majority of our practice is people who have already been on their health journey searching for answers. Maybe they've sought out medical answers. Maybe they sought out natural and alternative answers. A lot of people have been to a lot of natural healthcare providers before they find us. And so I think it's a fun practice, but the reason why we see people have such a broad spectrum is not because we treat a bunch of problems, it's because we look at the whole person. In fact, I don't really want to treat your problems or your symptoms. That's just, we say we treat the person with those conditions. We don't treat those conditions. And so that's what healing is all about, is treating the whole person, not treating the symptoms that you come in with.
No, I love that. Yes, I love what you said about the symptoms. Because I get that a lot too. Like, my diagnosis was this, or this is what and Lyme's a good example of, yes, you have Lyme, but if you just go after a symptom, there's so many layers you have to peel back. Just like an autoimmune or fibromyalgia is when I get a lot. I'm like, that is a statement for, this is what it seems like you have, or this is the symptoms based, this is the diagnosis we're going to give you, but treating that with a drug is not necessarily going to help get to the root of why are you having those symptoms.
Right.
So,
absolutely.
No, I totally agree with you on that. So when someone comes in for the first time, and I know this could be I love that I was able to listen to your, one of your clinics where you explain kind of what does a first visit look like. So kind of in a nutshell, I guess, when a new patient comes in, what does that first appointment entail, or what can they expect to learn in that appointment?
Yeah, that's a great question. When someone comes in for their first visit, simply we have paperwork that they fill out, first of all, because we want to know a lot about you. There's lots of factors that impact your health, not just your symptoms, right? We want to know about your family history, want to know about your life's history, things that happened to you when you were in utero, or when you're 2 or 5 or 10, they all matter when it comes to your health journey. When we get into the visit treating, really the treatment and the exam are one thing. You already mentioned that healing takes place in layers. It's like unlayering an onion, or we like to say unlayering an artichoke, because there's a heart in the middle, right? And so when we talk about healing, we work in layers. And so your first visit is really a revelation or an understanding of what is the first layer we need to focus on for you. And I don't know that mentally. We're just testing things out to allow your body to guide us. We say, God put all those answers inside your body, so we want your body to tell us what those answers are. And so we let testing reveal to us what to do and in what order, because we always say a good thing done at the wrong time is still the wrong thing. And so many of us have been on journeys where we've done a lot of things for our health. We've done, chiropractic care, acupuncture, massage. We've tried supplements or even medications, or we've tried diets, etc. And they're all good things, but if we don't do them in the order that we need to, we don't get the results that we're looking for. And so what we want to do is let our bodies tell us what those orders should be, or what the order should be. And so our first exam or our first treatment looks just like that, really unraveling that first order. We're treating through those layers throughout the first visit. And when someone walks out, they'll know what their first, you could say, most important priority to focus on is. And that might be different, or it might be the same as what we consciously think, but a lot of times it's quite different. And there's usually emotional components to our health journey that we were unaware of until we get to that first visit. And so it's usually a really like an aha moment for a lot of people.
No, I love that. And we talk about this a lot in, and I guess I can relate back a little bit to my son's journey. And that's when my health kind of started to unravel, even though I had been doing good things and didn't know what was going on with my own health. But I remember after that diagnosis, all of a sudden it was like things just started unraveling. And so how I find it so intriguing how emotional and trauma and stresses can make you sick. And I'm always kind of asking people, like, what happened within that time period before all of a sudden, because a lot of these people, it's all of a sudden, I just felt this way, even though I believe pain is kind of a late thing in the game, or these symptoms are late. This has been brewing for a long time. It's just now your immune system has been hit with another stressor. So how does trauma even correlate to pain in the body? I thought it was interesting, even you talking about like back pain and things like that. So how does trauma and emotional stresses compound all of this and affect the healing process if that is not cleared out?
Yeah, I mean, even just when we talk about physical health complaints that people come in with, even chronic physical complaints, I think it's important to contextualize our health journey. When you look at it from a deeper perspective, you might say that we have two opportunities. We can look at our problems as problems we just need to get rid of, or these, you could say, symptoms that we have are really an opportunity for deeper growth. on a spiritual level, on a personal level. And so I think when you look at it from that context and through testing, it reveals that all sorts of physical symptoms that people experience in life are really tied into a non-physical source. Typically, when we talk about Lyme or neck pain or back pain or gut issues or thyroid issues, there's some deeper non-physical source to those problems that started a long time ago. And like you're saying, a lot of times there's different emotional or mental patterns that we're holding on to. And so the way emotions work are whatever we don't process and let go of in life, we end up repressing until it gets expressed in the form of disease or dysfunction or a behavior we don't like. So we always joke and say, Woody Allen said, I don't get angry, I just grow a tumor, right? And the idea is like, if I don't process and work through and let go of what I need to in life, it's going to be I'm going to hold on to that energy and it's going to affect me in some way. And it's going to block up different acupuncture meridians. It's going to block energy flow in the body. We have mapped out different connections to emotions to different systems in the body, like our liver ties to anger, our stomach can tie to feeling sorry, our spleen ties to low self-esteem, our kidneys tie to fear, and the list goes on. And so there's all these different emotional patterns that we can hold on to from things that have happened in our past. It could be, a physical or sexual trauma. It could be a death in the family. It could be changing schools. It could be a divorce that our parents went through. It could be our first breakup when we were 16. We've all had things that have happened to us in life. And if we didn't have the tools or the resources or the capacity to fully process and let go of that energy at that time, it gets built up within our system and it blocks the flow of life energy through our body. And that will over time interfere with the function of our physical body. And so throughout testing, we'll find that someone will come in for a problem, like let's say a Lyme condition or back pain, and they'll find that it oftentimes is sourced with a deeper non-physical emotional pattern that ties back to when they were in their youth or when they were in their early teenage years or early adult years. And it's so common that unresolved piece of the puzzle is what's really missing in most people's journeys. Yet we all are living in our Western world trying to push around physical symptoms with supplements or medications or treatments, which are all good, but oftentimes not getting to the depth of what we need to fully heal something. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And I love that. I think it's just so cool how the body, like I said, we say it over and over again, like how complex we are, but how powerful the body really is and taking those away. So when you talk about, like the liver correlates to certain things, and we talk a lot about the gut and how the gut really controls a lot of the immune system. How do you, when someone comes in, is there generally things that are going on with the gut as well? Or is it clearing these other things that in turn will help clear? Does that make sense? Kind of the gut. So we always talk a lot about the gut brain axis and how the gut, you look at depression, anxiety, a lot of these things, there's something going on in the gut. What can we heal in the gut to help with the brain? So even in spectrum disorders, a lot of times we'll see these things like that, where their gut, that microbiome is destroyed. What are your thoughts on all of that? I know that's a kind of an open-ended question.
I think the first statement that needs to be made is just everything is connected. Nothing's disconnected, right? Our gut isn't separate from our mind. It's not separate from our physical body. Everything is connected. And so when we talk about the gut, there's an aspect of there's a huge influence on our gut in regards to our mental, emotional health, right? And we even have phrases for things like that. Just think about when you feel certain feelings, we say things like, oh, I felt that in the pit of my stomach, or that makes my stomach feel all tied up in knots. Or I always joke when I was in high school, I used to compete in sports, and I would, get nervous before a big event, and you have to run to the bathroom and have like loose stools, and then you go out and compete or go on the big stage, right? So we all know that emotional stress has a direct connection to our gut health. And there's studies that show that our different emotional states, whether we're stuck in anxiety or depression, or if we're happy or joyful, has a direct and immediate influence on the health and the makeup of our microbiome, right? It changes with our emotional states. And so a big part of healing the gut ties to first our intention and our willingness to let go of our patterns of emotional stress that we're holding on to. And that, I think, is the first piece of the puzzle. The second piece is that on a structural level, there could be misalignments within our nervous system, or things that are getting in the way of our energy flow to healing the gut. And then on the third piece is that chemical level that you talked about as well. I mean, I think it's very important to consider gut health, to consider what you're putting in your body first and foremost, but also what has already been done damage-wise or imbalance-wise through your lifetime. How do we come back from that? And that's where you've talked about things like Lyme or parasites or fungal stress, candida, a bacterial imbalance, chronic antibiotic use, things that erode the gut like pesticides, glyphosate, different vaccinations that have created toxicities in our bodies. All these things play a role. And I would say that there's two ways to look at those. As one is they could be problems that we just have to fight and get rid of, or we could look at them as maybe we just have to help the body do what it needs to do, or what it already does do is we need to help the body to heal the way it needs. So essentially let go of the emotional patterns that have created distress in my gut, that have distressed my liver, that have distressed my detoxification pathways. And then second, support the body with the right tools, whether that be an herb or nutrient, etc., homeopathic, to help the body to get rid of what it needs to in the right order. And that's different than just trying to force things out. It's like jumping in with you could say the supporting the body in the way that it needs to versus me thinking it needs to be forced out right now. I think parasites are a good example of that. Everyone knows about parasites and we just want those things out of here. But parasites are actually very helpful for us in many different ways. And not all parasites are bad. So when we talk about parasites, it's about how do I let go of things in the order that my body wants to and needs to, on layering things in the right order.
No, I think that's a great, yeah, you're so like right in what I've even learned or see my own health journey is just like you said, if you don't do the right thing at the right time, a lot of times I feel like a lot of times people get so sick on a lot of detoxification, different protocols, because I know you're right in that maybe that you're trying to force things to happen that the body is not capable of doing, or that's not the healthiest way to start ridding the system of certain things that are those obstacles.
Right.
That are causing you to be sick. So when you mentioned a little bit, when you said the gut, and so obviously over the last couple of years, I'm sure you have seen a ton of, and I've seen this a lot with kind of that long-term COVID, or when someone gets COVID, the virus itself, or even the COVID vaccine, there's a whole lot that can come with both of these that can hit the system. Do you see quite a few patients, Dr. Skog, that come to you? Because I personally have seen a lot of all of a sudden after having COVID, or all of a sudden after the COVID shot, all of a sudden I had these symptoms and I didn't before. Do you have quite a few people that come in? I mean, even long-term loss of taste and smell, that's a huge one. And that's so depressing, to not be able to, I know my brother-in-law hasn't tasted or smelled for 2 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is so depressing. So do you see that a lot, or what are you generally, for those people, have you seen some good results with how you work in your practice in relieving some of these symptoms? I'm not claiming anything here. I'm just saying, what have you seen personally?
Absolutely. We have seen a lot of people with everything history-wise in their past that you described. We've seen people who have had chronic long-haul COVID symptoms, people who have had loss of taste or smell, or even something called parosmia, which is when essentially their smell is disturbed. So what's even worse is worse than the loss of taste and smell is like when everything smells and tastes burnt,
Yes.
So now everything is terrible, right? So there's things like that people have trouble with. People who feel like one woman recently came in, she had essentially gained I think it was 80 pounds after getting the vaccine directly afterward, and had inflammatory responses in her body. Her joints were inflamed, and it couldn't find answers, and we were able to help her tremendously. And so one underlying factor that I've seen on a physical or chemical level is that when people get COVID, I have definitely seen that there's a common theme with patients. I don't want to say every single person, but a common theme where to help that person resolve their initial COVID symptoms, including their long-term, long-haul chronic symptoms, there's oftentimes a retroviral activation that's taken place within their body. And so a retrovirus is an RNA virus. It's an RNA virus that implants itself in your DNA. Essentially, it shifts the way our genes express. And a huge part of our genome is retroviral. And so what I've definitely seen through testing is that people will get COVID or be diagnosed with COVID, and then afterwards, it seems that it triggers a viral response, something that's already been repressed within their system that's now needing to be processed and worked through. And I think that when I've helped those patients, there's kind of two main components of that. Is one, it's not just an immune challenge. It's not just about boosting your immune system. It's also about supporting your methylation and detoxification pathways appropriately on a chemical level. But then number two is there's almost always emotional patterns to work through that are required or extremely important for that process to fully take place. And so that's why I go back to saying that we could view COVID as a really negative thing, or it could be a very positive opportunity for each person who has it. Same with long haul COVID. It could be viewed as a very negative thing or a great opportunity to let go and work through deeper things than I thought I could on a much deeper level. Does that make sense to you? So
Yes.
it's very important to recognize that, because every person who has had developed chronic issues from COVID or from the vaccine and come in here, as we help them to process through it, it's a deeper spiritual growth takes place for that person. It's like they've been holding on to energy that they didn't realize was there. And we think about what retroviruses are. Retroviruses are viruses that oftentimes can be passed on family history wise from our mom or her mom, etc. So there's different emotional patterns that can be held on to that are reflected through this physical manifestation of a retrovirus. And so the healing journey can be really deep sometimes and really rewarding. And that's why I say COVID or a long haul COVID symptom, it is not an end, a diagnosis. It's an opportunity for new growth.
I love that you said that. One of my favorite doctors as well in our company, she is a tumor pathologist, and she always says, cancer diagnosis is not this, like, it's an opportunity, just like what you said.
Yeah.
To what do I need to do for myself to get my body healing? What needs to be addressed that I've not been addressing? What have I been stuffing down for so many years and not dealing with? So I love that you guys both say that. Like, it doesn't have to be like a Lyme diagnosis can be horrific, but it's also an opportunity, like you said, to address the other things that are going on in the body. So that's so
I think that's one way God uses our health, is that we get to the point where we've been struggling so long with a certain problem with our physical health that we ultimately just have to develop the humility to let go of our perception of how we see things and be willing to look into things inwardly at a deeper level. And I think that's why health is such a great opportunity for personal growth and spiritual growth, is that we finally are able to, we kind of get to the corner where we can't go anywhere else. We just have to look inward. We can't keep looking outside ourselves. We have to look inward if we want to heal. And that's what's really cool about it.
No, that's so cool. And on that, I've gotten this quite a bit recently. And this could be, I mean, Lyme's an easy example of this. When someone says that, or like, let's say you were treated for Lyme, okay? Because I always tell people, like, I had Lyme. However, some things have kind of flared up. So you get that fear in you going, wait a minute, do I never get rid of this? Or is it a belief in that the viruses and the infections and things are always in there? It's just has your immune system, your emotions, all of those things, calm them down and taking care of them, and other things can bring them back up again. Does that make sense? Kind of what I'm asking, or what are your thoughts on that, Dr. Skog?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even know if I clearly said it before. We've kind of alluded to it, but my personal health journey was definitely that a number of years of not knowing answers, and then essentially discovering along the way that a big part of my physical health ailments were tied to Lyme and undiagnosed Lyme conditions. And I would say that I think it's important to realize that microbes are just organisms like you and I. They're just trying to stay alive. That's the first thing, is we don't want to demonize the Lyme, the Borrelia, the Bartonella, the parasite, etc. It's like that they're just organisms trying to live life too. And so I think a simple way to think about it is that when an organism is actively you can say presenting itself, like let's say you have a flare-up of Lyme, you have to think, well, what's the environment that's creating an opportunity for that active flare-up to take place? And that environment is not just a physical environment, it starts with our energetic environment, right? And so I'd say, well, when you talk about emotional components and traumas and things that stir up in life, that's what sets us off energetically. That's what creates a great environment for a parasite or Lyme, etc., to make a home or to live in, right? The easiest way to force a parasite out or to force Bartonella or Borrelia out is not by just taking a magic herb. It's by changing my inner energetic environment first. And now, because I shift or my environment changes, then we can give the right supplement or herb to help facilitate that change. Now that parasite, that Lyme, that etc., wants to or needs to move elsewhere or wants to leave the body, right? So I do believe that it's totally possible to be Lyme free. I've seen that firsthand. I think what most people experience with natural health care is not that, though. Most people experience suppressing symptoms. Most people experience trying to just deal with the inflammation and not actually dealing with the source of it. But that's what I would say is I've never seen a Lyme situation resolve without dealing with the deeper emotional patterns that are tied into it. And that's such an important part of it, right? So it's and not everyone consciously knows what those patterns are, right? A lot of times they're repressed unconsciously. But that deeper piece to healing is what I've seen in my own personal journey, and every patient that we've helped too, is that's what's required to actually heal and resolve a Lyme situation. We can't just take care of it from a physical level.
Sure. So that's probably why I was like a bawling mess in his office. If he, for those of you, he probably thought this girl is crazy.
I say we go through boxes of Kleenexes and that don't feel bad. You're not the only one that cries in here, right? It's just good stuff we got to let go of.
Yep. No, absolutely. Well, I love, love, love. I think we could go on and on and on. And I know that people are going to have questions. And I told, people, you can put comments below, ask questions. We'll reach out to Dr. Skog and his assistants and get those answered and just make sure that people kind of understand more about how your practice works. I highly recommend, like, he is someone that I would definitely reach out to if you are experiencing some of these things. I think everybody has emotional trauma and stressors and different things that we could all improve in the body. But I know there's a lot of people in the Minneapolis, Wisconsin, South Dakota area that are close to you. So I will put Dr. Skog's information and his phone number and everything with his practice. We're just so appreciative of your time. And just thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. And are there anything last that you want to point out or say before we end?
I mean, this was very fun. I appreciate you asking me to join this call. I've really appreciated you, you could say, prioritizing your health and also using your journey to help others. I think that's amazing. I just want to thank you for letting me be here. And I don't have anything to add. If anyone has questions, I'm definitely helpful or willing to be helpful and help out. And I hope that everyone helps us or finds this time purposeful for them.
Well, thank you. Well said on all of that. So I appreciate your health journey and how God brought you into this field. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and everybody put questions below and we'll get those answered. And I'll actually be seeing you in a couple of weeks back in Minnesota. So I'm looking forward to a second visit. So
awesome. Looking forward to it.
Thanks for your time. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording here real quick.